A gute Woche. Und der Rebbe soll uns beginnen zu verbringen this afternoon. The expression in Chazal, Misha Torach be'erev Shabbos, yochal b'Shabbos. The one who prepares before Shabbos has what to eat on Shabbos. And when we say has what to eat, yochal b'Shabbos, it doesn't refer just to matters of eating. It refers really to all the needs of a person. And we say that when one prepares before Shabbos, he has all the needs, all his requirements on Shabbos. As there's a lashon in the pasuk, ki lo yala lechem levado yichya ha'adam, ki al kol moitza pi Hashem yichya ha'adam. So from this pasuk we find the stress that this we take for granted, that lechem is what supplies a person. And the pasuk adds on, we should know that it's lo yala lechem levado yichya ha'adam. But again, what do we mean? We mean not only what food gives to a person, it refers to all the needs that are given to a person, all his requirements. And when we're entering this Shabbos, the preparation before this Shabbos, before this Farbrengen, which this is a Farbrengen which involves men, women, and Tazria-Metzora Noshem, as well as children. The preparation that came before this Shabbos is that the day before was Beis Iyar, 2 days in the month of Iyar, which is the birthday of the Rebbe that has publicized the concept of L'Katchila Rebbe and has given us strength to fulfill this Avodah of L'Katchila Rebbe. Therefore, it is understood that first and foremost, when we come to a Shabbos that follows such a day, that the hachlote which we have to accept on this Shabbos is to bring down into reality this concept of L'Katchila Rebbe. And as we see right away from the expression of the Rebbe Marash, that really there are two ways, two avenues in Avodas Hashem. As he himself said, the Welt sagt, expression goes in Yiddish, the Welt sagt, as me ken nicht darunter, geht men a Rebbe. The world agrees that if one cannot go under, can't go underpath, then we go Ariba, then we go above. And Ich sag, the Rebbe Marash continued, and he's the one that's saying, as Medav Gain, L'Katchila Ariba, that initially our approach has to be such that we have to go above and beyond. So we see that there is room for two Drochem in Avodas Hashem. And what are we told? That the derech that we have to choose, that in all matters, a Yid's approach has to be L'Katchila, initially, right away, above and beyond. And as the Rebbe added on later in the Sikha, L'Katchila means initially we are using this approach. But this is not only our initial approach, we go through with this approach the entire Avodas Hashem in a way of above and beyond. And this also relates to this week's Pirkei Avos. This week's Pirkei Avos, we begin the second Perik. Rabbi Yomer, quotation of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, where he says, Eizehi derech yishara, which is the proper way for a person to choose, sheyaver lo ha'adam. So again we see that there are several paths, several ways, and we say, Eizehi derech yishara, sheyaver lo ha'adam, which is the right way, as he goes on saying in the Mishnah. So again we see that there are several ways, but a person has to know to choose the right way, L'Katchila Rebbe. And actually this relation to L'Katchila Rebbe, continues the Rebbe, we find right away at the beginning of Pirkei Avos. What is our approach to Pirkei Avos? Kol Yisrael, each and every Jew, yesh lehem chelik lo olam haba. What is olam haba? Olam haba, highest madrigas. Olam haba is higher than Gan Eden. And naturally, self-understood that it's higher than Ilam Hazeh. And here we say how each and every Yid, as I explained it at length last week, has his share, his chelik, his portion in Ilam Haba. Again, an approach of L'Katchila Rebbe. And the same thing we find in the days of Sfira, which we are in the middle of now. Sfira Sayima comes after Pesach. What's the need of Pesach? So the Rebbe explained at length in the Farbrengen of Achnishal Pesach, that the lesson, the Hero, which we take with us from the Yontif of Pesach, is spelled out in the word itself of Pesach. What is the Taich Pesach? Taich of Pesach is to leap over, as we say it in Ta'agod. Why is it called Pesach? Al shum she'posach hamokim al boti b'nei Yisrael b'dnok payes Mitzrayim v'zbotenu hitzu. We call it this way because HaKadosh Baruch Hu has jumped over the homes of the Jews. When he plagued the Mitzrim, in our homes, he saved. So what do we see from the taich of the word Pesach? The taich of the word Pesach, which this is every Yontif gives us a message which we have to take with us for the entire year. The taich of the word Pesach is that we cannot remain on one spot. We constantly have to leap over. We have to go higher and higher. A Yid can never satisfy himself and say that he's already at a certain level and there's no room for him to go further. Keseder, at all times it is demanded, Pesach, to go. Incidentally, we usually don't mention other inyanim, but there's a very gishmak vort. I think the Rebbe brings it in the Haggadah. Regarding the Yontif of Pesach, we notice that when Yidden always talk about, in our own vocabulary, whenever we talk about this Yontif, we always refer to it as Pesach. In the Torah, however, in Chumash, it is referred to as Chag HaMatzos. Everything is accurate. So Levi Yitzchak of Badichev says, in our own vocabulary, when we refer to this Yontif, we say Pesach. Why? Because we want to stress the praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Al Shum Shepasach, as we just mentioned, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu leaped over our homes. When he plagued the Mitzrim in our homes, he saved. The Rebishter, on the other hand, when he's referring to this Yontif, he's always referring to this Yontif by mentioning the praise of Yidden. What's the praise of Yidden? Chag HaMatzos. How careful Yidden are by taking out the chametz, and by bringing in the matzahs, and all the hidurim that come along with the matzahs, how Yidden are celebrating the Yontif. And this is best emphasized in Chag HaMatzos. Getting back to our inyan. So what is the Yontif of Pesach, which we are just coming from? And that is when we began the counting of the Sfira, as we find that Tzaria-Metzora is related to Pesach. As the Pasuk uses the expression, Usfartem lochem mimochas Shabbos. When do we begin counting? From the second day of Pesach, which that is the meaning in Mochas Shabbos. They interpreted it literally. So according to them, we have to start after a Shabbos. However, Chazal interpret that it means from the day after Pesach, from that is when we begin counting the Tzaria-Metzora. So the message of Pesach is such that we constantly have to keep on going higher. And actually, this is the same idea which we find in Tzaria-Metzora as well. What's the Pshat Tzaria-Metzora? Also, we count. Tzaria-Metzora comes as a preparation to Matan Torah. The famous Ran, which the Rebbe brings, always that how did Tzaria-Metzora initiate? When the Yidden went out of Mitzrayim, they began counting the days. They were told that after 49 days they will be receiving the Torah, so they were awaiting it so anxiously that they began counting the days, expressing thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Another day passed, we are closer to Kabbalah Sater. And this is how Tzaria-Metzora originated, which actually Tzaria-Metzora means it's a preparation by each and every one of us. We are getting ready for Kabbalah Sater. And now it brings to our attention something else. How do we count the days? We say, Hayim Shnei Yomim Loima, Hayim Shloisha Yomim Loima. In Hebrew, we could have said also, Hayom, Yom Sheni, Hayim Yom Shlishi. When we say Shloisha Yomim Loima, or Abba Yomim, or Asar Yomim, whatever the case may be, that shows that it's a continuity count. It comes as a hemshech, comes as a continuation to the previous day. It's not just like we're counting items that do not relate one to another. There is a relation in the counting. Was meint us? Because the counting is bringing out the concept that we have to keep on going higher and higher. Actually, this is what we say the same when we say in the Rabbeinu Shalom, Mashe Pagamti B'Sfira. Because every day of Tzaria-Metzora, we are purifying another part of our midas. Person is based on 7 midas, and each of the 7 midas consists of 7 detailed midas, which is a total of 49. And during the 49 days for preparing ourselves to Tzaria-Metzora, we are to purify another part and another detail of our midas. But we continued again how this concept of Lakatchila Riber has to be brought down into reality, has to be brought down into daily life. And all matters, how we say, we were created to serve our master. And in serving our master on all levels, we have to realize this concept of l'katchila riba. And actually, this is also emphasized in the Shiurei Rambam of these days. How the Rambam brings out regarding the halachas of karbonos, that there's a mitzvah to say that all the karbonos have to be whole and complete. Again, stressing the same concept. Tmimim umufcharim. And mentioning about the Rambam, what is the abbreviation of Rambam? Revois moifsai be'eretz Mitzrayim. Multiple of miracles in the land of Mitzrayim. That's the abbreviation of Rambam. What is in a multiple of miracles? Again, the concept of l'katchila riba. While mentioning about the Rambam, Rabbi says it's a proper opportunity to stress the importance of observing Shiurei Rambam, whether it is in the Sefer Rambam or it's in the Sefer of Mishnah Torah, but regardless, the inyan of learning the daily Rambam. And all of this serves as a preparation for Kabbalah Satira, which will be forthcoming on Shavuos. And especially we notice in Tzaria-Metzora something special, that it's the only mitzvah where right after fulfilling the mitzvah, we mention Harachmanu Yachselon Avodas Beis Hamikdash Lom Kaima B'Meher V'Yameinu Amisela. So again, this will serve not only as a preparation for Shavuos, but it will serve as a preparation for the whole entire union of Geula. Because this is how we stress in Tzaria-Metzora, that Tzaria-Metzora relates to Geula. Tzaria-Metzora B'chal brings down a tremendous flow and a tremendous revelation of Bracha. As we stress in the Tefillah of Al Yidei Zeh Yushpa, this will bring down a hashpah of Shefa Rav. Not only a plain hashpah, it will bring a hashpah of Shefa Rav, an abundance. An abundance of revelations is being created through them, through fulfilling the mitzvah of Tzaria-Metzora. And just like by Yitzias Mitzrayim, there were tremendous revelations of Getlichkeit. As we say in the Haggadah, Nigla Aleim Melech Malchei Amlocha HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'chveido B'yatzmoi. And it's known, the explanation of the interpretation of the Rebbe Rashab, that this refers to such a level in Getlichkeit, level prior to Tzimtzum, the level of Lifnei HaTzimtzum. Incidentally, says the Rebbe, again a concept of l'katchila riba, a level of lifnei hatzimtzum. And these are the type of revelations which we can expect with the coming of Mashiach. The revelations will be even yet greater than they were when the Rebbe took us out of Mitzrayim. Another inyan in this week's Seder, the Rebbe continued, there were short sichas throughout. It was a short of Farbrengen. And the Rebbe spoke several sichas, but each of the sichas were very short, relatively. And here the Rebbe related to Parshas HaShavua, that this Shabbos we have a combination of two sedras, Tazria-Metzora. And it's a combination of such that the person who has the Aliyah of Revi, he makes his first bracha in the first sedra, and the closing bracha he makes in the second sedra. Which this actually shows us that when we lay both sedras together, it's a combination that it becomes one sedra. As far as we are concerned, this is the one sedra of this week. There are many Gdolei Yisrael, continues the Rebbe, that refer to the second sedra not with its name, but they refer to it as Parshas Tahara. They do not want to say a name, which title of the sedra is, so that is why they use the name Tahara, purity. However, says the Rebbe, the attitude of the Rabbeim, of our Rabbeim, the Siyach Chabad, we did not notice that they should refrain from calling the Sedra by its name, by the name which is a word in the Sedra in Torah. They did not refrain from this, but they called it by its regular name and all the Mamorim that relate to this Sedra. So therefore, we have to follow the attitude of our Rabbeim, and we can definitely refer to it by its name. However, there's a question which arises, a very obvious question which arises. Combining these two sedres, the contents of these sedres is opposites. When one is a level of a Metzora, he is forbidden and prohibited from being in a madrege of Isha Kisazriya. Because a Metzora is also b'tash m'shamita. A Metzora has to be separated. Bodod Yeshev, he has to be isolated. Mechutz lamachna moishavai, So how can we combine Metzora and Tazria? Tazria means giving birth to a child. Isha ki Tazria v'yolda zacha. How do we combine both of these inyanim? Not only we cannot combine them, they are opposites. And here the Rebbe brought out that the idea of Metzora refers to Golus. What's the pshat? We say Bodod Yeshiv, we are separated, we are mechutz lamachne. That's a concept of Golus. On the other hand, Tazria relates to Giyula. Isha ki Tazria v'yolda zocha, giving birth to a male to a boy. That's the concept of zocha. The Rebbe spoke about it last week as well. Regarding lost love, where we find the expression is shir chodosh, not shira chadosha lashon nekeve, but shir chodosh lashon zocha. That's the expression of Giyula. What do we say here? That Yidden at all times are really like children that are sitting at their father's table. However, in Golus, it is not as visible and not as accessible as it is when we are in Giyul. What do we say? That dafke from the madrege of Metzora, this is what's going to lead to the madrege of Tazria. In other words, it is dafke from the depth of Golus that we will come to Giyula. And when we will come to Giyula, then we will have Chassidische Farbrengen together with Mashiach Tzidkenu. And together with the Rebbe brings is also called the Chassid, as the Alter Rebbe writes in Igeres HaKodesh regarding HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Oviv HaRachmam v'HaTzadik v'HaChassid. So Hashem is a Chassid, and Hashem will join in with us in this great Chassidische Farbrengen, which we'll have together with Mashiach and together with the Rebbe, who is, as the expression goes in Chazal, Chassidoi Shel Olam, which we will have with the coming of Mashiach. Another reunion which is taking place this Shabbos is the Rebbe referred to the convention of the Beis Chana of Minnesota, which was taking place here this Shabbos. And there was mentioned many times that every Yid is a Shliach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Nonetheless, to fulfill his mission here in this world, nonetheless, there are those amongst us who are given the special mission of spreading Yiddishkeit and spreading the wellsprings of Chassidus. Rebbe spoke very warmly about the Shluchim and their families, their wives, and their children who are involved with this institution. And now they are having something which is taking place in a house of Torah, in a house of Tefillah, in a house of Tzedakah. And when we're talking about any event which is taking place, the ultimate result of such an event is that this will lead to a yet greater increase in the spreading of Torah and the spreading of Chassidus. Especially when we're talking about women, we know that the mitzvahs of Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem, which these are constant mitzvahs, as the Sefer HaChinuch writes in his introduction, these are mitzvahs which relate not only to men, they relate to women equally. And all of this will be another step, the involvement of Afatzas HaMayonis, which will lead to the coming of Mashiach, especially when all of this is done in the spirit of Shnas HaArboim. And as mentioned already many times, the idea of Shnas HaArboim is that the Rebbe has given us Leiv Lodas, Einayim Lirois, Vaznayim Lishmoy. Everything is done on a higher level, on a level of elevation. So all of this will lead to the coming of Mashiach. Sikha which we're going into now is a sikha which relates to Pirkei Avos. It was interesting to note that when the Rebbe began the sikha, the Rebbe took his Pirkei Avos sheets out of his siddur, kept them in front of him, and he explained this Mishnah. Perik Beis begins, Rabbi Yomer, Eizehi derech yishara sheyavir lo ya'od, and what is the proper way for a person to choose? The Rebbe raised several questions in this Mishnah. Firstly, we all know who is meant by Rebbe Yehuda HaNasi. He has such a nice name. Why don't we use his name? Especially a name like Yehuda, which has the name of Hashem in it, has Yudke Vavke in it. Why shouldn't we use it? Furthermore, Chazal tell us that when Rebbe Yehuda HaNasi was born, there was a gzeira against making brissen. And nonetheless, his father went to Mesiras Nefesh and made his bris. His bris was given was made at a time of Mesiras Nefesh, and then his name was given. So why shouldn't we use a name which was given under such unusual circumstances, and we prefer choosing the title Rabbi Yomer? Furthermore, if we look further into the Perik, we see that there's a quotation from his son, Rabbi Gamliel ben Noishel Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. Rabbi Gamliel, the son of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. And what is Rabbi Gamliel, the son of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi? So we are mentioning Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. So why, when we're mentioning his own quotation, we do not mention him? A Mishnah later, we're mentioning his son, the son of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. Now let us understand, what is this question? What is the proper way for a person to choose? Everybody knows what is the proper way for a person to choose. The way of Torah. Yisharim Darkei Hashem. He says, what is the derech Yishara, the right way for one to choose? There's a pasuk. The ways of Hashem are Yishar. Notice something else. He's using the expression, Ezi derech Yishara sheyavir loy ha'adam. Why Adam? Man has other titles also. Here says the Rebbe, here in this we have the answer. Here we're talking about a person who has reached a very high level. He's gone through the first Perik, and he's came to a level of Zohir b'mitzvah kaloke b'chamura. To him, all mitzvahs are alike, all mitzvahs are the same. He's careful and cautious in an easy mitzvah as well as in a harder mitzvah, in a chamura. I don't mean a harder, I mean a mitzvah which has more weight. This would be the proper interpretation. And we're talking about a person who is taken the level of Adam. Adam meaning Adam ala Elyon, compared to his master. And when one is in such a level, he's searching for very high madrigas. Not the ordinary day-to-day. He has reached to a higher madriga than that. And we tell him, rather than him wasting time searching for what to do, Rebbe is giving him right away the advice. What should he do? What is the proper path for a person at such a level, at a level of Adam, one who has already completed all levels, and he's searching to go higher and yet higher? He always has to remember that his way in Avodas Hashem has to be such, Tov l'shamayim v'tov l'briyos. That's what the Mishnah is saying. And we're talking about a person who is Adam, Adam el Elyon. The Rebbe stated it yesterday, Ha-Adam is yet higher than Adam. Yet higher, Madrig. And when we're talking about the title Rabbi, Rabbi is a title which brings out his greatness, not only by his name, but it brings out his greatness, Rabbi, Rabbon Shel Yisrael. It brings out really the essence of his neshama, the essence of his person, which is yet higher than his name. And that is why when we're talking about a person who's at such a high level, he is receiving the hirah from him also at his height, which is the level of Rabbi as opposed to Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. How great Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi is. And we know he's the author of Mishnah, and that is why he was given this title, Rebbe, as we will soon be saying in Shavuos night, we will be saying Tikkun, and in Tikkun, which we say Shavuos night, we say a piece of every Masechta, the beginning of it and the end of it. And why is it called Tikkun here, the Rebbe is mentioning? Because it corrects, it gives to the Yontef of Shavuos, and that is why we say it even before we read the Aseres HaDibros, we say it on the very first night of the Yontef. Reb Hillel of Parich says the Rebbe had a minhag, he would say Tikkun Shavuos on both nights. But we say it not on both nights, we say it on this one night. And he is called Rebbe abbreviating Rabbon Shel Yisrael. This is the essence of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. And when one is at such a high level, he's getting this instruction from the heights of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, where he's giving the advice that at all times, what is the proper derech in Avodas Hashem? Naturally, the proper derech is derech of Torah. This is something which we know. But we're talking about a person who has gone through this level already. He's gone through the level of Yisharim Darkei Hashem. He's striving to yet higher. So he's giving him the highest that Avodas Hashem is, to know that Tov l'shamayim v'tov l'briyos. So from here we are entering the Parsha of Achi and Kedoshim. Parshas Kedoshim begins with Kedoshim Tihiyu. So Rashi says, Yochel Kamoini. We are told that we have to be sanctified. So Rashi says, Yochel Kamoini. I would want to think that one shall be as great as Hashem. So how do we say it as a question? Yochel Kamoini. So the pasuk goes on and says, no. The Rebbe says that his sanctity is higher than ours. The Rebbe says there's a famous taich, a chassidische taich, Yochel Kamoini. Not that Yochel Kamoini is a question. Yochel Kamoini is a statement. A Yid is bekoyach to reach this level of Kedusha, the same level as HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yochel Kamoini. A Yid could reach to this level. A gute Woche.